Ladies and gents, welcome to CG Reaction, and this is the last video of Unbiased History series, The Fall of Rome. This is going to be a really sad video because this is end of Roman Empire right here. The Roman Empire has been really dominant throughout the years, but their own people is their downfall. Attila Hun is here, so this is it. Rome started with obviously Romulus and Remus, and then if Julius Caesar made it great. Augustus followed in his footsteps, became the first ever emperor. After that, lots of great names came. Trajan, Aurelius, Diocletian made some great alteration to the things. It was great. Basically, there were some great emperors who did great things and basically dominated every other tribe they came upon. They dominated Britain, they dominated Germanic tribes, Goths. Basically, there was no contest against them. Romans came and everybody just ran away. That was the case. And in the end, we saw how it started to soon just start to fall. Roman people, they were their own enemies, stabbing each other in the back, treachery all the way, just trying to seize power. Everybody, it's like every few minutes somebody was claiming to be Augustus. I'm the Augustus, I'm the Caesar. Oh my god. It's like I think in the past emperors should have made some kind of reforms or something that makes it difficult to people to just claim themselves as Augustus, because everybody was just anybody has some power, so they just create a revolt and then they just basically claim themselves as Augustus. It's just stupid. Basically all the great emperors were exhausted. Constantine came, and he basically was the last key figure who made a massive scale changes and who was dominant. I think he never lost a battle, so that was something. After that, it just started to fall apart. Everybody was just coming and they didn't even care about Rome. Goths were basically raiding Rome from inside, and some of them I don't care. They were just basically chasing their own interests then rather than chasing Rome's interests. They failed to realize that Rome has been dominating regions so much that whoever is going to come to raid them are going to have grudges, like Goths and Visigoths and now the Huns, and they are going to burn everything that Rome has. So they are basically chasing their own interests, thinking that I'll be fine if I just chase my interests, I'll make deal with them. There is no making deal when you are at the top for 1,000 years. So that is just ridiculous. The Huns are here, basically the largest and biggest enemy Rome has ever faced, and at the time where Rome doesn't have any great people left. This is just effed up, man. In the last video we saw that Stilicho was another potentially great Roman who could have led Rome to success, but he was too, I guess, too loyal. Didn't cause revolt when he should have. An asshole named Olympus basically made sure that he doesn't survive, and in the end he died. Even his men were slaughtered. So that's the thing. Attila the Hun is at the gates of Rome. This is the time to preserve your best men and best people, and yet these idiots are killing their best men left and right. Like I said a few episodes ago, I said it that the Rome is going. I don't know anything about Rome's history until I watched this video, so it's not like I knew or something what's going to happen. I didn't even know who the Huns were before they arrived. So even before that, I said it like this Roman people are going to be their own downfall, because this is just stupid. You need to have some level of patriotism and some love towards your country, because in the end you have to have Rome comes first before anything else, because this is a critical time. Nobody's thinking that. Now I'm slowly understanding when people brought up the fall of Rome, what they're trying to say. Let's watch this last episode. It's just going to be sad.
There once was a dream that fell. The empire of the 1st century, that of Augustus, in the 5th century, had been permanently split in half, invaded by barbarians and about to face the greatest enemy it ever had. In Ravenna, the fat corpse of the Western Emperor rotted, and in Constantinople, the Eastern Emperor was a puppet of his sister, waging religious wars against the Sassanids, and not even finishing the job. And while Eudoxia LARPed as a femme Constantine, Theodosius II had a daughter named Licinia, who was arranged to Valentinian III once Galla Placidia arrived from the west. In Hispania, however, as the Vandals took over, two of Constantius III's legates took over, Castinus and Bonifacius, and while the former was focused on the battles, the latter was an absolute cunt to work with. Disagreeing with Castinus about everything, he straight up abandoned his duties and marched away with the Roman legions to spite him, setting up in North Africa. Left only with the Gothic Federation.
Oh god, see, that's what I'm talking about. Critical time of need and people are not even following orders, man. It feels like in the end all the Roman people are left are just a bunch of a-holes. Nobody cares about Rome anymore. It's just...
To command, Castinus attacked the Vandals and was betrayed by the Goths, like clockwork. Returning to Italy and learning of what happened, Castinus helped elevate a prominent local, Joannes, as the new Western Augustus. And this drove Galla Placidia nuts, who barraged Theodosius, gradually an actual emperor, to name her son Valentinian III as the actual Western Augustus, sending two barbarians, Ardabur and Aspar, to kill Joannes. To make things worse, Bonifacius refused to recognize any emperor that Castinus liked, so he declared for Valentinian III and cut off the grain supply to Rome. Lacking a proper army to defend himself, Joannes resorted to the best man under his command, Flavius Aetius, to help him. And disgusted by the empire's division, Aetius knew well what he had to do, and he...
Again, people are just caring about who's Augustus, who's not. Titles. People are chasing titles. Do you even understand what's happening at your borders, man? Do you see the hordes that is coming? God's already inside. You know, the new tribe is coming and they are in massive scale. I mean, they must have known it. There was such thing as scouts. I mean, they must have known that there is a, the Huns are basically at the gates. At the time, people are just like, claim this Augustus, claim my son as Augustus. Who cares about title, man? Think about your survival. People, at this time, all the, Western, Eastern Augustus, all of them should combine and think of the strategy to defend against the Huns, rather than just care about titles. Your titles means nothing if just Huns comes and kills everybody.
He was the only one that could do it. Despite the disadvantages at play, Joannes managed to capture Ardabur once he invaded Italy, but he let him live, long enough for him to talk one of his own men into betraying him. Joannes was then tortured to death in Aquileia, overseen by Galla Placidia and Aspar, whom recently took the city. And just as she had secured power for her son, Galla sensed a coldness in the air, an imminent sense of dread, of despair grew on her, until one day she looked from one of the city towers and froze in fear.
Oh no, here he comes.
An army of Huns camped outside Aquileia, with Aspar's Germanic men dead at their feet. Knowing they were doomed, she and Aspar tried some diplomacy, and to their surprise, weren't killed on the spot. No, instead, the monsters gave way to someone, approaching ever nearer. And that someone was Aetius, asking Galla to end this petty conflict. After years of exile in the lands of the Huns, Aetius had come to understand their true nature, which he used to his favor. In this era of barbarity, Aetius learned to subdue the monsters to his whim, but this skill had its limits, for he was not their true master. Galla thus named Aetius her Magister Militum, though she already had one, while the Huns were allowed to go back to their Dark Lord. Knowing who the Empire...
How did they do that? How did they, I don't understand this. How was Huns under him at all? Why are they not just, following Attila and just try to raid everything? I don't understand that.
Would soon face, Aetius raised plebs like Aegidius and Marcellinus to help strengthen the empire, including a young patrician recruit, the tragic hero, Julius Majorian, together with a certain German, a descendant of a long lineage of barbarian kings, part Visigoth, part Suebi. Ricimer was his name, allowed to join the legions when he was very young. Having grown up watching Alaric's reign of terror over Italy, Ricimer would live out Arminius' legacy once more. Castinus, however, was exiled, while Aetius, once hearing the Goths were sieging Arles, marched there to stop them. Crossing the Alps, he found Arles being sieged by a new Visigothic king, Theodoric, and kicked him back to Aquitaine, but only that. Aetius refused to crush the Goths, for he knew that once the true enemy attacked, they would be needed. Already winning victories, Aetius was already the target of envy, with the other Magister Militum plotting to
Okay, Aetius, this guy feels like, he could be some resistance to the Huns since he's thinking strategically. He's sparing gods because he knows they're going to be useful against the Huns. That is future thinking that I like. Maybe, as I say this, I'm pretty sure in next 2-3 minutes he's gonna die because somebody's gonna stab him in the back. But I hope he is by the end, resistance to the Huns. I know Rome's gonna fall, but how badly it's gonna fall, that's the point I wanna see. I hope Rome doesn't fall like weakling. I want it to give some kind of resistance towards the Huns.
kill him, something Aetius found out in no time and had him executed for treason. But the thing with traitors is that there's always another one, Bonifacius in this case, who transferred his hate for Cassinus onto Aetius, and lacking the military strength to do anything about it, he contacted the new king of the Vandals in Hispania, a demon named Gaiseric, inviting him to settle in Africa in exchange for supporting him, and you almost could hear his evil laugh echo through time. Bonifacius thus let 80,000 Vandals cross the sea onto Mauritania, where they then betrayed Bonifacius and marched towards Africa. Failing to stop them, Bonifacius fled to Carthage, letting the Vandals take over Numidia, including Hippo, where future Saint Augustine resided. With no hope left, Augustine invoked the power of Deus through prayer, and at the cost of his life, despite the Vandals having destroyed the entire city, they were unable to destroy his library. As for Aetius, he had marched on the Danube, where the Ostrogoths had been continually raiding, and marched on Gaul, where he retook most of the Frankish-occupied Rhine. Meanwhile, Galla Placidia received Bonifacius in Ravenna, and for having let the Vandals invade Africa, she named him the West's Magister Militum, firing Aetius and starting a civil war. Don't ask me why. Aetius then, after leaving his best troops in Gaul so he wouldn't collapse, entered Italy, battling
Okay, he is, you know how in the basically most democracies today, even including United States, when countries under attack, there could be something called martial law, where basically political leaders are serve aside because it's a matter of national security, and the military leaders and the like presidents and things like that, it dictates things what to happen. Rome should have had some implement like that, because those idiots who are sitting there on the throne thinking they are the Augustus here and that, around that time military leaders should have been the one that had last say, because since the Rome is under attack. So she just basically denounced him while he's the only person who's actually doing something. I mean, talking about shooting yourself on the foot, this is stupid, man. Every time I see something better happening in Rome, somebody comes and just out of greed does something stupid. They basically would have saved Rome, I guess. This is not the time to inner fighting. He's like, he's not, leader of military or whatever the title is. This other guy is. I mean, come on, man, really?
Bonifacius and mortally wounding him. But the thing is, he could only spare his worst plebs to fight, who actually lost the battle. And before Galla Placidia could celebrate victory in Ravenna, Aetius arrived there pulling the same trick from before. Aetius then took back his position, released his grip on the Huns, and married Bonifacius' Gothic widow to cuck him even in death. While in the east, Theodosius continued having a daughter, but what really ruined his day were the increasingly troubling reports he received from the Sassanid Empire. Sending diplomats to secure peace, it was said the Huns demanded several tons of gold, but once he delivered them, they demanded double the amount. He delivered again, and again double was demanded. Theodosius was perfectly happy to throw gold at a problem, but only later he learned he was throwing gold at nothing. Castles plundered, dominions in ruin, servants destroyed, a bloody conquest having consumed hundreds of thousands, countless villages razed to the ground by one and one alone. But what really struck fear into his mortal heart was where he was now. The time had come, for on the other side of the Danube, on the closing decades
Attila
of the classical
the Hun.
era, the scourge of God, Attila the Hun, invaded the Roman Empire. From all directions, his countless hordes attacked, taking over the Balkans with terrifying speed. The first victims were the limited border guards, being all slaughtered and their old forts destroyed. Mounted on cavalry, they were too fast for the legions to respond, arriving at the cities far before any reinforcements arrived. With demonic battering rams, they crushed the gates open, and on city after city began killing any and all civilians they found. The cities of Illyria were reduced to ruin.
There you go. See, like I said, they are the, I guess, ancestors of Mongols. And we know how Mongols were. We know how, they basically killed every single person. They didn't leave any survivors. They literally they killed so many millions, it's not even funny. So they're basically ancestors of them. So they're doing the same things here in Rome, killing every single person, not just to surrender them. They're wiping people out. This is horrible, man.
Moesia met the same fate with equal brutality. Sirmium and Proto-Belgrade were among the victims. However, Nisus, home of so many Roman heroes, suffered the worst fate of all. The city's population was completely annihilated, with the bones of the men, women and children of Nisus spread around the city's plains, so that the world would know the wrath of Attila. Absolutely shitting his robes with fear, Theodosius sent endless envoys begging Attila to stop, but the only answer he received was a demand for a local bishop, which they eventually got anyway, for Attila hated nothing more than followers of the one true god, and so he was marching straight towards Constantinople. Sacking every city on his path, Attila was met by the East's greatest army and completely crushed it. Knowing he would eventually come there, Theodosius gathered as many of the remaining Eastern legions together as he could, mounting a last-ditch defense on the battlefield and hiding behind the great Theodosian walls. But Theodosius would only understand who he was dealing with after what came next. Conjuring the evilest powers known to this world, Attila started a gigantic earthquake in Constantinople. And once the tremors gradually calmed down, not much was affected, except the huge cracks and gaps it inflicted on the Theodosian walls, severely weakening them. And just like that, Constantinople was doomed to share the fate of Nisus, or it would be.
What the hell? An earthquake came just at the right time to break the walls? I mean, this is too coincidental, man.
Had it not driven the city's population to such terror that they mobilized with the city's engineers to get it rebuilt. Enslaving themselves and put to work, by the time Attila arrived, the Theodosian walls were good as new. Once Attila had slaughtered the Eastern Empire's army again, he laid siege to Constantinople. But despite how much he tried, the wall's defenses stood strong, overseen by the general Zeno, who had the luck of relying on Euphemus' legacy. It became clear Constantinople was too divinely protected to be destroyed, but that wouldn't stop Attila, for he wasn't the only of his targets. Attila then destroyed the remnants of the East's armies and vanished into the north, getting plenty of gold being thrown in his general direction. And discerning how much would be enough was an official named Orestes, who had betrayed civilization and joined the Huns. Having sold his soul to Attila in exchange for great power, he would serve his master's interests to the very end, as would another one of Attila's servants. As for Aetius, the Burgundians' aggression had so gotten to his nerve that he ordered some Huns to attack and slaughter them, being less merciful than usual. And as Aetius ever more lost his patience,
how did he defect some of the Huns towards him? That is ridiculous. This, knowing how Attila is, I thought he would have grip on his people, like they would not defect like that. How did he do that? Man, this guy seems like he could, if he had enough time, he could have, saved the Rome. If he had enough time, became Augustus or something. But I don't, that's the thing, man.
With the shitty late Empire officials they had to work with, it got to the point that Valentinian III, read, Galla Placidia, sent one of the top officials in Italy to settle the feud. Successfully calming Aetius down, Leo gained his respect, and that of the people, which was convenient when the Pope died, and the people voted Leo to succeed him. A Roman through and through, Leo embraced his duty to protect Rome's faith, and civilization more broadly. For too long, the interests of the state and Christians had been divergent. Choosing to fight both for the faithful and citizens of Rome, he actively sought to end the Arian-Nicene division, persecuted the Manichaeans in Rome, and affirmed his bishopric of Rome to be the highest religious authority in the West. Back to Aetius, he was putting the Goths yet again in their containment zone. And once he returned to Italy to deal with other matters, the general he left in charge was defeated. So then he sent one of his officers, a man named Avitus, to make a treaty with the Visigoths, which was good at. While in Africa, as the Vandals neared Carthage, Theodosius II sent a fleet to stop them, but after some inconclusive skirmishes, Gaiseric had made a prisoner, one of the Palatini guards, and after foreseeing his future through dark magic, he released him in exchange for never opposing them again. A treaty was then settled that gave the Vandals all of the Media, and the legions returned to fortify against the Huns. It will surprise no one that Gaiseric then invaded Africa anyway, took over the local fleet and seized all nearby islands, proclaiming the birth of the Vandal Kingdom. Germs in North Africa. But Aetius was granted no opportunity to stop this, as his armies were kept busy enough holding on to Hispania and fending off a new Frankish attack in Gaul. But the invasion was frustrated by Majorian, who kicked them back, and later, together with Aetius, defeated the Frankish king in battle, together with his son, Merovich, future founder of the Merovingian dynasty. Little did they know where the true enemy laid. As for the Eastern Emperor, he had fallen from his horse, broke his neck, and died. Yeah. Leaving no male heirs, his zealot MILF sister Pulcheria stepped up again, and married the now captain of the Palatini, Marcian, making him the new Augustus. And as for the Western Emperor, he had married the now adult Licinia some time back, and had two daughters, Eudoxia and Placidia. And Aetius had bore a son with his Gothic wife, hoping for a new Stilicho, which didn't happen. And as Valentinian pondered betrothing Placidia to either him or Majorian, Pelagia, that was her name, threw a huge tantrum to get her way. As for the young Eudoxia, Valentinian betrothed her to his new hostage, Gaiseric's son, hoping to ally with the Vandals. The fool. All of these marriages and betrothals while Honoria remained single, whoring around like Messalina and the Julias of old used to. But that ended when she was betrothed to some random boring senator to settle down. But Honoria wouldn't have it. She would rather have the whole Western Empire burned than marry a dude she didn't like. In perhaps the most selfishly cruel act in Roman history, Honoria wrote a letter asking for help, begging to be saved from Valentinian's forced marriage, putting in one of Honorius' rings in it as proof of her identity, and sending it. And who did she send it to? Attila the Hun, who took this as an offer of marriage from a being almost as disregarding of human life as he was. The moment Aetius had foreseen was at hand. Hundreds of thousands of Huns now rode.
What the fuck? Why she do that? Of all people, Attila, really? Oh my god.
West. Attila would soon be there. Galla Placidia lived long enough to protect Honoria from execution, and instead being exiled, with her dying shortly after that, leaving it to Aetius to send word to all corners of the world still under Roman rule, telling them that it was now life or death. From Italy to Illyria, from Gaul to Hispania, Aetius marched and gathered every last able-bodied Roman he could find. Patrician or pleb, strong or weak, all were recruited into the army. The descendants of old heroes, unknown either to them or to others, heeded the call to fight. For those doomed to live in the end times were nevertheless still connected to the ideals of a bygone golden age. It didn't matter how little did they share the values and practices that once made Rome great, nor how well they did. It would take everything the empire had to stop Attila from destroying it all. Everything, including those very barbarians that so plagued the empire for centuries. The first death was that of the Frankish king, and while Aetius had a puppet ready to take over, Merovich, the approaching Huns disputed this. The barbarians could feel their persecutor ever nearer, and it was then that Aetius contacted them. While they shared opposite views and goals of how to rule this world, they now both shared an enemy that sought nothing but their mutual destruction and enslavement. Typically, Germans wouldn't listen to reason, and at first didn't. But Aetius struck such fear into the hearts of barbarians he was as bad as Attila for them. And thanks to Avitus' diplomatic efforts, Aetius once again was successful in subduing the barbarians.
Damn, okay, at first I thought Goths, Visigoths, Franks, everybody's, against Rome, and now the Huns are here too. I mean, it's gonna be overwhelming. But apparently, Aetius is, turning that around, taking all the barbarians, Goths, Visigoths, Franks to his side. And then he's going to attack the Huns. That is something that could, give some level of fight to the Huns, I guess. I feel like they are going to betray him at some points. Because that's how it goes. So far I've seen this series, 18 videos I've seen. So, whenever things are going fine, somebody betrays them and that's it.
To counter Aetius' growing anti-Hun coalition, Attila subdued more barbarians under his rule, among them the Ostrogoths and Franks, assisted in his efforts by one of his officers and most loyal servants, Odoacer. Crossing the Rhine, the city of Metz was the first to fall to him, personally hunting down the bishop of the city and killing him before his own altar. The Huns had invaded the west. There was no time to waste. Aetius had but a few weeks before everything was lost, and he was going to use them.
All right, yeah, massive montage is going on. Everybody's training. I hope the Huns doesn't just arrive and just crush them like that. That would be such bad. But since the video is over half an hour, about half an hour left, I guess they're going to put up a fight.
What little time Aetius had left was now over. Attila had crossed his entire horde into Gaul and rained terror in the cities therein. But Attila's main target was the city of Orleans, by then Aurelianum, the city rebuilt and named after the one god's greatest hero. But on the way stood Paris, which radiated such holiness Attila chose to destroy it as well. As the Proto-Parisians lost hope, one saintly woman, Genevieve, did not, praying for protection from Deus and calling the others to do the same. And the aura of divinity it summoned forth was too much for Attila to bear, abandoning the siege, forever immortalizing Genevieve as the patron saint of Paris. It was now Aurelianum's turn to be...
Yeah, okay. So why did he really retreat? Because the walls were impenetrable or something? Damn, that is something. The walls, decision of making walls was the best thing that ever happened, because before that, people were just basically any moron was just coming with some level of force and was raiding cities. Now it's not so easy to raid cities. That's a big thing.
Besieged. Putting all of his forces into the effort, it wouldn't last long. For the city had already been previously taken by barbarians, who betrayed the city into the Huns' dominion. But as they opened the gates to let Attila through, the citizens of Aurelianum revolted, slaughtered the barbarians and closed shut the gates once more. Insulted, Attila barraged the city's defenses day and night, but the citizens didn't give up, holding up for as long as they could. After several days of continued attack, as the city nearly fell, their prayers were finally answered by what had emerged on the horizon. City. Aetius set pursuit, and as fate would have it, was set to face Attila at the Catalonian plains. The battle for the fate of the world had started. Aetius and his legions took the left, various barbarian tribes the center, and Theodoric's Visigoths the right, with his son held back holding onto a ridge. The battle started terribly, with Attila personally carving through the center and raining arrows on both sides at once. But Aetius held strong with a shield wall, which the Visigoths copied, and Attila answered by sending his frontline hordes forward. As 1 million men fought for the fate of the world, Attila passed through the broken center and went straight for Theodoric. As the Huns fell upon them and Theodoric rallied the Visigoths to hold, he was impaled by a spear, thrown by the Ostrogothic slaves serving Attila. As the Visigoths neared collapse, Aetius rode to their aid, crashing into Attila's forces, who countered by sending his remaining hordes to attack all at once. Aetius killed Hun after Hun, but still suffered many losses. Out of all enemies that Rome had ever fought, none commanded more fear than Attila. And if there was anything he desired to prove, was that it didn't matter what Aetius did, how many legions he trained, or allies gathered. In the end, Rome would fall.
God damn.
Attila assured Aetius he was alone. There would be only darkness for him and death for his people. These barbarians were only the beginning. Attila would command an even greater and terrible army and ride to 1,000,000 cities. He would ride until every light had been extinguished. Aetius was strong, but Attila was beyond strength. He was the end, and he had come for him. Staring into the abyss of Roman history, and it staring right back at him, Aetius stood strong, undefiant, and not alone. The legions he had trained held their ground against the constant Hunnic attack, and while the Visigoths collapsed, Theodoric's son charged from a ridge, pushing the Huns back and turning the tide of battle. As the Huns fled from the battle, dying by the thousands and retreating with no options, Attila followed suit, defeated for the first time.
God
The
damn!
morning after the battle, the impossible
Alright, that's the Romanov. First ever proper battle with Rome and Attila is, retreating. That's awesome.
had become a reality. The empire had defeated Attila, and Aetius was praised as the man universally recognized as the terror of barbarians. To finish it all, Aetius thus ordered the coalition to pursue Attila, but the Visigoths and others refused to fight, and under their new leader, they had returned to their barbaric ways. No sooner had Attila left Gaul than the coalition disintegrated, the barbarians returning to ransack Gaul as if the Huns wouldn't return. But Aetius knew better. Day after day, Aetius patiently waited for a Hunnic counterattack, but it never did come, not from where he expected. To Aetius' horror, the scouts reported Attila had neither stayed on the Rhine, nor returned beyond the Danube. Drenched in a vengeful wrath, Attila launched a direct invasion of Italy, and was met with Aquileia at its entrance. Sieging and eventually taking the city, Attila didn't conquer Aquileia, he didn't sack Aquileia. Attila destroyed Aquileia.
Oh my God.
All of its citizens were massacred, walls torn down, and buildings demolished.
Barbarian is the word Greeks and Romans used to use for any other people, but we use barbarian as how animal like their nature is, and that's what Attila and the Huns are. They are just like the Mongols to me. So far I've heard they are just like the Mongols. They are too barbaric. They got defeated there, so obviously they came back with a revenge, and now they are just burning everything in their path. That's just effed up, man.
Its complete destruction had a point. It was to show what Attila had planned for Rome. However, a few did manage to survive, fleeing to the islands near the shore, and forming a community that would live up to Rome's republican tradition longer than anyone else. Attila then moved towards Mediolanum, meeting Aetius there, and despite no longer having the man to face him head-on, he caused enough pain on his backlines Attila wasn't able to destroy the city. But however much damage Aetius could inflict, he could not stop Attila from marching south towards Rome. As Attila approached what remained of Rome, he was interrupted. In the sky, a figure was carried onto the ground, held by two angels, emanating a divinity stronger than any other. It was Pope Leo, going north to stop the demonic Attila by himself, wishing to talk with the Hunnic king. As Attila prepared to slaughter the most sacred of bishops, something began to manifest behind him. Standing tall and visible only to Attila, the spectral form of a man in robes emerged, drawing his sword, and threatening Attila and his armies with death if they didn't heed what Leo had to say. At the sight, Attila agreed to Leo's request, and went to talk with him in private. And the content of that conversation is legendary.
Okay. I'm gonna say it or...
After that, Attila was convinced that attacking Rome wasn't really what he wanted anyway, and ordered his Huns to leave Italy. After that, he had a huge party, married a Gothic barbarian, had a nosebleed, and died. Soon after his death, the Huns broke apart into several groups and migrated away to different...
What the... Let me reverse.
After that, Attila was convinced that attacking Rome wasn't really what he wanted anyway, and ordered his Huns to leave Italy. After that, he had a huge party, married a Gothic barbarian, had a nosebleed, and died. So
What the What just happened? What the hell just happened? What the hell did they talk about? Why did he suddenly decide not to invade Rome after all that? He just died? Ah. Man, come on. So if that's the case, how the hell did Rome fall? Clearly it's not because of the Huns.
Soon after his death, the Huns broke apart into several groups and migrated away to different corners of the world. And that was the tale of Attila. Thanks to Aetius and Leo, Attila had been defeated for good, and against all odds, the empire yet lived. But only as a shadow of its former self. The empire remained weakened, her lands divided and taken over by barbarians. Preparing to save it all, Aetius gathered all of his officers, discussing his strategy to free their lands and restore the empire to its former glory. You see, during this world-ending commotion, the emperor had kept himself busy with things like gambling and raping the wives of married men, including a one named Petronius. Knowing that Aetius would stand in the way of his revenge, he convinced Valentinian Aetius was planning to murder him, which he bought, and so he backstabbed him at the first opportunity, having all of his loyal officers watch him die. Denied help and betrayed so cruelly, Aetius bled to death on the floor, condemned as an enemy of Rome. As Valentinian celebrated, he was approached by a local bishop, divinely guided by Leo, telling him he had cut his right hand with his left. Furious at Aetius' assassination, Marcellinus revolted against Valentinian, taking over Illyria and leaving Valentinian with only Italy under total control. Seeking to gain from Aetius' death, Petronius asked Valentinian to be named as his new Magister Militum, but he was shielded against by the very leeches that had helped him earlier. So he stuck with his original plan, and while the emperor and his leeches were visiting Rome, he arranged for 2 Scythians that were loyal to Aetius to guard them, and let them avenge their master by murdering them all. Petronius then bribed the entire Senate to acclaim him emperor, married Licinia for legitimacy, engaged his friend Olybrius with Placidia, and married Eudoxia to his son, the same Eudoxia that had been betrothed to the Vandal.
Yes, so I'm like, oh, what the hell just happened? The Huns are not the reason Rome's going to fall. They just went away. How did the Rome fall? Of course I know how did the Rome fall. It's because of their own asshole people. God damn it. I'm getting pissed off, man. This is not even funny.
Prince. Licinia, of course, didn't accept this, and learning from the stupidity of Honoria, she imitated her, writing and sending a letter begging to be rescued from an unwanted marriage. And who did she send it to? Gaiseric, the Vandal king. With the best possible excuse, Gaiseric launched a huge armada against Rome, seeking to finish what Attila had started. Taken by surprise, Petronius had left Rome unprepared for such an attack, so he panicked and told everyone else to panic, telling Rome's citizens to flee away from the city, spreading chaos and confusion everywhere. As he fled, Petronius and his son were cornered by
Aetius was there, you know, he basically saved Rome from the Huns. He was gathering people up, and then that asshole stabbed him. He could have been the Aurelian of the end time of Rome. He could have saved the Rome. This is just stupid, man.
By an angry plebeian mob and torn limb from limb, with them being thrown on the Tiber River as the Romans fled the Eternal City. When Gaiseric had landed and approached Rome, he found the city severely depopulated and unguarded, proceeding to ransack it even more than Alaric had. All of Rome's aqueducts were destroyed, statues of emperors and past heroes were torn down, all the gold Titus had brought from Judea stolen, the roof of the Temple of Jupiter torn away, and the remaining population raped and enslaved. Such was the brutality and destruction the Vandals perpetrated, the name Vandal would forever be remembered as he who willfully damages property, often beautiful.
Oh yeah, it is, isn't it? Vandal means that. This is why. Damn.
And valuable. Presiding over the chaos, Pope Leo once more conjured his divine authority and had Gaiseric pull back from completely destroying the city. And after seizing the imperial family and hearing of Petronius' gruesome fate, Gaiseric left the city with them. And while Gaiseric terrorized the Italian coast, we get back to Avitus in Gaul, who had been sent by Petronius to bribe the Visigoths for support. And now that he was dead, the new Visigothic king, Theodoric II, proclaimed Avitus the new Western Emperor. Getting to Rome and facing Ganseric's raids without the prospect of Eastern assistance, Avitus turned to Ricimer for help, and so he sent Ricimer to deal with the Vandals, and spent what little wealth Rome still had to pay off the Goths, something the remaining citizens of Rome didn't like at all. Soon enough, the plebs' resentment was targeted at Avitus, forcing him to leave Rome, putting it on Ricimer's hands. Deep down, Ricimer wanted nothing but to extinguish the last flames that dared to keep Rome alive. And out of all of them, Majorian, now returned from exile, burned the brightest. But evil is often pragmatic. Thus he devised a plan to use Majorian as a likable puppet as he amassed power behind the scenes as his right-hand man. And after convincing him Avitus had to go for the Empire's own sake, they made an alliance against him. Capturing Avitus without much trouble, Majorian wouldn't kill a fellow veteran of Aetius, and so made him a bishop, sparing him the fate of so many ex-emperors. Or so it would be, with Ricimer secretly murdering him right after. He wasn't the only one to die, as Marcian had also left this world, and with Pulcheria dead as well, Aspar, who was still around, was the Ricimer of the East, appointing a general in good standing to be his puppet, a man that wouldn't be a puppet, named Leo, confusingly enough. And just like him, Majorian had no intention of being a puppet, for as he looked onto his empire, weakened and on the brink of death, he chose the hero's path, vowing to restore the empire to its former glory. It had befallen Aetius to save Rome from Attila, and under Majorian's rule, it would befall his legions to keep it alive. Knowing many battles were to come, Majorian emulated Aetius by taking many barbarians under Rome's command, trusting Ricimer to govern Italy while he campaigned. Seeking to cleanse the rot on the state and society, Majorian passed a series of laws to encourage the birth of kids, punish adultery, crack down on senatorial corruption, and to affirm the citizens' fundamental right to bear arms shall not be infringed. Of Majorian's major deeds, he hunted down all of...
that in the end they're lacking military power now, so these reforms, make sense. In the end, he had the massive task of powering up the Rome when there are not many people left. He's trying, but clearly he's not gonna succeed. I'm guessing somebody's going to stab him in the back pretty soon, because that's what has happened since I started reacting to this series, I guess. Some person rise up and he gets stabbed in the back.
Those that damaged old constructions for their marble, seeking to preserve the legacy of old heroes. During these reforms, the Vandals invaded Campania and sacked it, and Majorian marched there and killed them all. Just as quickly, when the Alemanni invaded Italy out of nowhere, Majorian immediately had them kicked out. Now respected by all, Majorian was recognized by Leo as his co-emperor, named Aegidius as his Magister Militum, and was pledged loyalty to by Marcellinus, accompanied by his nephew, Julius Nepos, one of the last remnants of the Julian clan. He then proceeded to rebuild Ravenna's fleet, and with the Visigoths running rampant in the west, Majorian used it to land his legions there and save Arles like Aetius had done, surrounding them, beating them back to Aquitaine and reducing them back to federati status. Never stopping, after traitors had given up Lugdunum to the Burgundians, Majorian marched there and killed them all, retaking the city. Next, he would attack the Suebi to take back Hispania, pouring all of his money into the construction of a massive new fleet, intended for the soon-to-be reconquest of North Africa. To start off, he had sent
You hear me? That is awesome.
Marcellinus with a fleet to retake Sicily. Fearing an invasion and that he wouldn't be able to beat Majorian in open battle, Genseric resorted to the weakness of all perfect men, the imperfect man around him. In his cruelty, Genseric raided and slaughtered all the lands in Mauritania to make any Roman invasion there unfeasible. And after retaking almost all of Hispania, Majorian...
Yeah, that has... Lots of people has done that. When somebody's coming to invade them, they burn everything around them. So when somebody does invade them, they have nothing to show for it. That's just petty, isn't it? That's just petty.
returned to finish his grand fleet. Once he arrived, he was met with a blazing inferno, his efforts and ambitions betrayed just like that. The campaign had been ruined, but Majorian knew that if he gave up, everything would be lost. As the last generation keeping Rome alive, Majorian dispersed his army far and wide, sent to all corners of the west to defend the empire while planning his next move. On the other hand, his victories shattered Ricimer's plan to have him as a puppet, going around giving hope to people that the empire could be saved. He was unforgivable. Copying Gaiseric, Ricimer approached the disgruntled leeches of the empire. In exchange for support, promised to get rid of the man that so threatened their corruption. Returning to Italy, Majorian ready to pass several more reforms to strengthen the empire, ensured by all that everything was fine as he went to pass the night. The trap had been laid. Germanic betrayal was to reshape Roman history yet again. Having usurped power behind the scenes, Ricimer's ascension would see the last remaining heroes of the empire die, one after the other. Kept alive for days, Majorian was subjected to the most painful tortures known to man. Humiliated, deposed, betrayed. Majorian was killed, his corpse left to rot. In the immortal words of Edward Gibbon, Majorian presents the welcome discovery of a great and heroic character, such as sometimes arise in a degenerate age, to vindicate the honor of the human species. He was among the last of the Romans.
God damn. This is the second hero that rose in this particular timeline, and even he got stabbed. Like I said a multiple episodes before, Rome was fallen way before. This is just formality. This is stupid, man. People are just being treacherous. This is why I understand, in most countries, treason is one of the biggest crimes of them all. Because seeing this fall of Rome, I cannot agree more. I hate the people who just, stab each other in the back like that when some person is just trying to save the entire damn country. I mean, to me, Romans never got weakened. The people became more treacherous, sure, but they were never weakened. Even look at here, Majorian. Even he was rallying up people and kicking everybody's ass, even in the end. Romans were powerful up until the end. It's just their people were just too treacherous and greedy. That's what happens when you reach certain level of height. People start to see wealth and power as just, too much, and they just start to, stab each other in the back to gain more power and,
The end was at hand. The barbarians now roamed the empire unimpeded, and Rome itself was now at their mercy. Again in the position to name emperors, Ricimer arranged for the weakest, most pathetic of men to be his puppet, a one named Libius, having everyone recognize him as Augustus. With the murder of Majorian, the invading barbarians consolidated into new barbaric kingdoms, while remaining legates like Marcellinus revolted against Ricimer's regime, Aegidius likewise, taking over northern Gaul. Honoring his friend's memory, Aegidius defended northern Gaul by himself in what would eventually be known as the Kingdom of Saxons. Trying to get rid of them, Ricimer bribed the Visigoths with lands in Hispania so that they attacked Aegidius. and down south Genseric had returned to raiding the Italian coast, demanding Olybrius to become emperor as his own personal puppet to control. Unable to stop this threat to his power, Ricimer needed help from the Eastern Emperor, and given that he didn't recognize Librius as legitimate, Ricimer betrayed his own puppet, having him poisoned to death. This however only made Genseric shield for Olybrius even more, even raiding Greece to bully the East into appeasing his wishes. But it backfired, convincing Emperor Leo to crush the Vandals with all of his might. Picking up where Majorian left off, Leo spent all of his gold he had into the creation of a gigantic fleet. Over 1,000 ships were built, carrying—
Now, where the fuck was he when Majorian was getting killed? His help would have been really helpful. I hate that too. I see him as a traitor too. I don't care if it's two division. I don't care if it's East and West. It's still part of Rome. He should have helped his fellow Romans. This is stupid.
100,000 men meant for the reconquest of North Africa. And as for there being no Western emperor, Leo resorted to the grandson of both a pathetic and a great man, Procopius Anthemius, sending him west. Regarding the fleet, with Aspar realizing Leo wouldn't be his puppet, he ordered the fleet's commander to betray Rome, and intentionally ruin the campaign to disgrace Leo. On their way to Africa, Marcellinus joined them and took Sicily back into imperial rule. Genseric needed time, and so literally bought time, bribing the navy commander to accept the truce. Using said time, Genseric got his fleet ready, launching a night attack with ships loaded to the brim with explosives. In the middle of the truce, Genseric attacked from all directions together with the explosive ships, devastating the Roman fleet. The treacherous general then fled right away, pursued by the Vandal fleet. Half of the Grand Imperial Armada had been destroyed, with tens of thousands of legionnaires left dead on the sea they used to call their own. Marcellinus survived the battle, escaping to Sicily and falling right into Ricimer's hands, who had him sharing the fate of his comrades. Yet another catastrophic defeat allowed the barbarians to prey even further on the Western Empire, with the recently freed Ostrogoths taking over Pannonia. And facing such a crisis, Anthemius turned to a rumor of a great civilized king in Britannia. Desperate for help in Gaul, he sent a letter to this king of the Britons, asking for assistance against the Visigoths. The king agreed. Allowed passage through Sicyon, the king fought the barbarians and won many battles, but was the victim of a terrible betrayal, after which he retreated to a town under Burgundian occupation, named Avalon. In time, that traitor's name would be remembered as Mordred, and that king's name as Arthur. And as legends began, so did betrayals persist, this time by one of Ricimer's friends trying his luck in overthrowing the emperor, but he found out about it and had him executed. And this just wouldn't do for Ricimer. A puppet with enough autonomy to protect himself was no puppet at all. Meanwhile, Leo had grown tired of Genseric's constant demands regarding Olybrius, so he sent him to Rome with the mission of calming things over there, but also sending an order for Anthemius to kill him on arrival, something Ricimer intercepted, showing to Olybrius and acclaiming him as emperor, later killing Anthemius with the help of his new evil subordinate. But even the most evil, cruel, historical monsters do eventually die, and satisfied with the irreparable crimes against civilization he committed, Ricimer died soon after, alongside Olybrius, to Genseric's fury. Unfortunately, Ricimer had left his Burgundian nephew as Magister Militum, who used such power to name a nearby Palatine, Glycerius, as emperor, then left to rule the Burgundian kingdom. Weak and alone, Glycerius would spend his rule bribing Visigoths and Ostrogoths to not invade Italy. Such was the point the Roman emperor had been brought to. As for who Leo favored to be—
how mighty has fallen, look at that, oh my god. I don't even recognize Roman Empire anymore, god damn. And how it's not going to work if you're just gonna bribe people not to invade. Of course they're going to invade, they see your weakness.
Emperor, that would be Marcellinus' nephew, Nepos in Dalmatia, who with his help led an invasion of Italy. Unable to stop him, Glycerius surrendered, and for that Nepos turned him into the Bishop of Salona, basing him on Diocletian's old palace, now a cathedral, something he would have just loved. Leo then died just like Vespasian, mortal diarrhea, eventually leaving the empire to his general Zeno. And oh how I dreaded this moment. While Nepos' rule would mirror much his predecessors, even managing to take the Gallic coast back, but it was lost again after he was deposed. Yes, you heard me right, for Nepos had as Magister Militum none other than Orestes, and having betrayed civilization long ago, marching a barbarian army on the capital was no impediment to him. Nepos was then forced to flee back to Salona, where he chilled with Glycerius, now sharing the same fate. Orestes had usurped power, but didn't rule himself. Instead, he made his own son an imperial puppet, naming Romulus Augustulus as emperor, one of history's cruelest jokes. Having helped his
Hype is
usurpation,
what you
the barbarians
laugh.
demanded lands in Italy as payment, which Orestes denied. So the barbarians sided with the nearest barbarian officer, Odoacer, who beat Orestes in battle and killed him, getting proclaimed as, dear me, the barbarian king of Italy. Odoacer thus gathered his barbarians and slowly traversed through the treacherous swamps of Ravenna. And what happened next is history. When Odoacer broke through Ravenna's gates, he didn't find the all-powerful emperor of the civilized world, nor two elected consuls protecting the republic, not even a king leading its people to prosperity. No. Instead, he found a weak, trembling child, unable to protect himself, much less the people he nominally ruled. The Eastern Emperor Zeno later received the news, learning that Romulus Augustulus had been deposed, and together with the message, Odoacer sent the Western Imperial Regalia, proclaiming there was to be no new Western Emperor. This was the end. Odoacer took over Italy as his own personal kingdom. Nepos would mount a resistance in Dalmatia, but would be betrayed and conquered by barbarians. Aegidius and his successors resisted for a decade more, but were eventually overwhelmed and suffered the same fate. The Western Roman Empire had completely fallen. Here starts the Dark Ages.
Yeah,
The
god
fall of Rome
damn.
was nothing short of a catastrophe for humanity.
Oh god damn. Seeing since this is 19 video series, we've been watching this from the start for such a long time. It just feels surreal to think that Italy fall like that. God damn. That has never happened in the past, no, not even close. Romans has always been dominant, but this is just sad.
At first to the sea and land trade routes connecting peoples all over. Then to the Roman cities, beautifully and orderly built, were one by one destroyed and replaced by barbarian mud huts. The education system collapsed, breeding plebs 10 times less literate and cultured, later known as peasants. Previously compatriot provinces were broken down into countless petty kingdoms, doomed to petty wars and hatred. The church reigned supreme, but not always as the followers of Deus, but often as corrupted, sinful mortals. But in many ways, Rome hadn't truly fallen. In one form or another, it would continue to exist for as long as there were.
Why is that whenever this Elder Scrolls music plays, it's really deep. It brings up deep emotions, and this there couldn't have been any perfect time to play it. This is just awesome.
Those who believed in its ideas. Its forgotten knowledge would be eventually rediscovered. Its laws, languages, faiths, icons, and heroes, universally praised, served as the building blocks for new civilizations to arise from its ashes. It would
Yes.
often be the case, in this far future, where the ruins of the once great empire attracted admirers, filling them with wonder and questions. They would ask who were these people that could raise such structures in the past? What was their history? What was their story? Were one of them to know, he would tell the story of a long-gone people and their dream. A dream of civilization, order, and glory. A dream of kingdoms, republics, and empires. A dream to purge this rotten world from the barbarians that infest it. A dream called Rome.
Oh god. That's how he started his first video. This is epic, man. Oh god, Doherty outdid himself, man. This was so epic video. The ending was just too good. The way he created, phrased all these things, the way he created this, and oh my god. This was really sad. I have never felt sad watching, especially YouTube videos. Basically, I've never been this level of sad, and never this level of emotions ever came out. This was too good of a series, man. Apparently the Huns are not the reason Rome fell. I always assume that that's what's going to be the case, but no, it's not. In the end, let's be honest, it's the Roman people. They were their own downfall. Crisis of the third century. From there on, everything just fell apart. Too much treachery, too much personal gain, too much selfishness. Nobody really caring about Rome. But in the end, last two great names were left. Even Majorian, nobody, even he got killed really horribly. At the time, what the hell was East doing? Constantinople could have sent help. In the end, they could have, combined their strength to fight against every barbarians, but they didn't. The Rome fell way long ago. This was just formalities. Great heroes rose up just to die because there was never hope. This was hopeless. This was fucked up, man. And this was really sad. The ending was really sad. People were saying on the comments it's gonna be sad. I'm like, come on, man, it's not really gonna be sad. It's just an animated show about Rome, but no, goddamn. I got to give props to Doherty, man. He's from the first video up until this last one, he improved immensely. This was too epic. Now I cannot wait for his next series. He's just too good. My god, how the mighty has fallen. The level of Roman Empire was before. All the great emperors, it's just like marvel of the entire world. Nobody was like them. Look at them in the end, they just died like that. People were still living in mud huts while they had these massive cities that even today, if you see it, it's just gonna be impressive. Alright people, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you want me to react to some other series since this is over, if you want me to react to some other series, comment down and I'll see you next time.